Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. I was just back from Canmore. I went to the Nordic Spa there.
Mm-hmm.
Kananaskis Nordic
Right?
Spa. Kananaskis. It was fantastic. It's all these outdoor pools and saunas and cold pools, hot pools. They're thinking of building one in Edmonton that was going to be down by Fort Edmonton, but they're not going to proceed with it there. I hope they proceed with it somewhere because it's an absolutely fantastic facility and great for winter living. This kind of outdoor sauna, cold pool, hot pool experience that they love in Nordic countries, which we are one of, I would suggest. So, Bruce, we're here tonight to celebrate the Oilers.
I was going to say mourn.
What a crappy game. I mean, everything went wrong that could go wrong. The Oilers actually weren't that terrible this game. It was a 5-2 loss to the Ottawa Senators, and there's lots to be unhappy about. But it just was such a weird game. The Oilers actually had 13 grade A chances to 6 grade A chances for Ottawa. But Ottawa scored on 3 grade B chances. The Oilers had the Oilers goaltending has won them some games that they should have lost, and tonight the Oilers goaltending lost the Oilers a game that they should have won. And there's some bad bounces, at least 2 posts in the first period. I don't know, 3 posts, 4 posts this game for the Oilers.
3 in the game, yeah. All of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Neal hit the post.
Yeah. So this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast, and we're also going to briefly talk about Taylor Hall, although it's been written about a lot and discussed a lot on the internet, Bruce. We haven't yet discussed it on the podcast to get your definitive view on this ongoing saga of Taylor Hall and whether or not he should come back to Edmonton or not. So we'll talk about that at the end. What's your good thing?
Well, yeah. I'm going to go with Sam Gagner's pass on the first Oilers goal. The one where he was barely onside, where he took the pass at the blue line. And, as soon as the puck went in the net, even before they showed the replay, I was going back on my remote saying, was he onside or not? Because it was really close. I think he was onside. At first I wasn't sure. And then, but he got the puck and he made just a beautiful little shovel pass. Got it in the air to get it over the stick that was near him and put him into a lane where Draisaitl could skate onto it. And, of course, Leon makes the slick backhand feed to Kara for the finish. And on the TV, they're talking about, first of all, they're talking about Leon's pass, which was good. But I thought Sam's showed some real vision and some real creativity there and created a goal. And I knew the goals would be, as soon as I saw Craig Anderson in net, I went, oh, no, not this guy again. Not this guy again. And sure enough, they couldn't beat that guy or his posts.
He got lucky.
He just kills us.
And Gagner also made a really nice play on the power play goal, setting up Clefbaum with a nice feed to get a one-timer shot off. And for a second there, we had on the power play, Bruce, what I always like to see. We had McDavid on the right half wall on his off wing and Gagner on his off wing on the left half wall. And I always think that's the best kind of power play formation. But you can't complain about the Oilers' power play this year too terribly much. If Gagner had been offside on that play, Bruce, he would have had to hand in his veterans card because
step over the blue line and wait for the pass.
I knew he was onside. I just knew it. I just knew he was going to be onside because he's too smart a hockey player to have been offside there. So my good thing is the first period. The Oilers they were as dominant in the first period as they've been all year long. They just stomped the Senators. It looked like an NHL team versus an AHL team. The Senators were very lucky not to be down by 3 goals in that first period. It was 7-0 on grade A scoring chances in that period. And the Oilers' chances weren't just grade A chances. They were like in the 33% variety, where you expect about 1 in 3 of those shots to go in. They just were so unlucky not to have more than 1 goal. The puck just absolutely didn't bounce their way. Not only on the hitting the goalpost plays, but just other plays where they were kind of charging into the slot and the puck was bouncing around. And all it needed to do was just fall on somebody's stick and they would have had a goal. So the Oilers just absolutely dominated
Unless it
that
was
first
Riley
period.
Sheahan's stick, which it actually did fall on, and he still didn't put it in. But,
What's your
yeah.
bad thing?
Oh, well, I would say the second and third periods. But certainly the Oilers, after taking it to them in the first period, they kind of fell back on their heels, and Ottawa took it to them. They got a couple of, I mean, sleazy goals. I mean, let's face it. But that just seemed to throw Edmonton completely for a loop, and they never got their crap together at any point thereafter, really. And I mean, they got one late in the second to make it 3-2, and they came out early in the third. And you would think 3-2 down, they've just scored. They're going to come on gangbusters against a tired team that played on the West Coast last night with a short turnaround time between games. The Oilers should have the big energy advantage, and Ottawa came out and they smoked them in the third. They had the first 5 scoring chances. They scored twice. And again, there was some bad luck. I mean, a pass hit the ref and went right to Ottawa guy. There was one that was shot into the corner and it hit some little thing in the boards. I mean, that one that they said Clefbaum overskated. That was a bad bounce. Puck was ringing the boards, and it was one of those cases where the boards were weren't flush, and the puck just hit and bounced right by Clefbaum. And our rink, Edmonton's lovely downtown arena, did not do the home team any favors tonight. The ice was terrible. It looked like that nobody could handle a puck with a damn. And the
Well, McDavid had a few
bounces
nice
off the
rushes.
board. He had 2 nice rushes on the same shift in the first period, and then after that, he was not really much of a factor. Ottawa was all over him, and Edmonton just had no response. I think they really missed Zach Cassian in this game, and I think they missed a couple of their other guys, but they just yeah,
Yeah, there
that
was a
guy.
bad bounce on the first goal that Mike Smith let in was such a weird goal because there's a fanned shot or fanned pass, and it kind of, because it's fanned, then it kind of gets slapped behind the net, and then it just bounces perfectly to
Yeah.
the guy, and then he puts it off Smith's pads. It was just one lucky bounce, one lucky play after another on Ottawa's goal there, and that was the killer, right? Because once it was 4-2, it was over. My bad thing was the goaltending. Mikko Koskinen has been fantastic this year, but man, he let in 2 terrible. You know, he should
Brutal.
have had both of those shots. He normally would have had both of those shots. And when Bruce, you talked about the lack of pushback on the Oilers. When a goalie lets in a grade B shot or 2, it in the NHL or any league in the world, it takes the life out of a team. It's hard for teams to come back. Uh, Not just from a goal, obviously, but when the goalie just makes an obvious mistake. And Koskinen made 2 in a row right away, and
12 seconds apart, eh?
just brutal. And then Smith's, goes in off his skate from behind the net. 3 grade B scoring chances, and they score 3 goals. You show me a game where a team lets in 3 goals like that and wins. It could have happened tonight because Ottawa just looks so weak on a certain level, but Edmonton just didn't have it. And
Ottawa looked weak, and they were the better team. So I mean,
well, I don't think
let's
they were
chew
on it.
on
I just
that.
think they
Well,
got. I
I
think they
think they
got the
were in
bounces and the
the
goaltending.
second and third periods. They were the better team, and that's 2 out of 3 periods.
Yeah.
I mean, Edmonton could have been ahead after the first period if they'd finished
Well,
some plays, but
they were 1-0,
yeah.
but they should have been more. If they had one more goal, 2-0, I don't think Ottawa comes back because Ottawa was ready to lose this game. What's your number?
Uh, I'm going to go with the number 6, and that is the consecutive number of times the Ottawa Senators, one of the NHL's typically worst teams, have come into Edmonton and beaten the Edmonton Oilers 6 times in a row.
It's
6
amazing.
times in a row, the Ottawa has won here. 4-3 in overtime in 2014. 4-1 the next year, 2-0 the year after that. That was the Craig Anderson coming back after his wife's cancer scare game. And a big story and everything. 6-1 the year after that. 4-3 in overtime last year when Ottawa was in last overall. And Edmonton needed the win to stay alive in the playoffs. And every time the Oilers just come out and they lay down a great big steaming turd on their home ice against this team. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure glad I'm not paying to watch the game like that. And we put on a better show than that, guys. Come on.
You paid with your time, your precious
Yeah,
time.
well, and my energy, like as you can tell, I'm pretty frustrated at this moment. And this team just can't get any damn traction. And every time they get a game that really they have all the cards in their favor, more
Mhm.
rested against a team, 5-game losing streak, played last night in Vancouver, and then have them come over and run Edmonton's show in Edmonton's barn. It's just not acceptable. I bet you
My,
Dave Tippett is ripping them right now. That's my guess. I mean, you
mm,
like the way they played.
I don't say I liked the way they
Yeah,
played. I
okay,
just don't
sorry, I
think
overstate.
they the goal the goaltending was horrible. But
Yeah.
can you rip like what happened? Do you rip a goalie for being terrible? Like it's not like it's a highly technical position, right? It's not like through lack of effort that any of those three terrible goals were scored against. It's just it happens now and then. Happens to the best of goalies, and it happens to bad goalies lots. Fortunately, we haven't seen that many goals against Koskinen like that this year, hardly any. And it's been more common with Smith, but um, I just think the Oilers won against Vancouver the other night because Koskinen was great. They lost against Vancouver the other night before because Smith was bad. They lost tonight because of goaltending. It's just so much a part of the game, and so I just put this one down to goaltending and puck luck. I don't think it was a particularly terrible effort from the Oilers. I just think it was that. So I'm a little bit more
They didn't
sanguine than
get
you are.
they didn't get any puck luck, I'll say that. And they didn't get any, and there was a lot of bounces. The ice, to me, the ice was bad.
Yeah,
But it
my
was bad for both teams, and yet
sure.
one team was able to cope with it, and one team, I mean, the Oilers couldn't get over the blue line for long stretches of the game, trailing by a goal when they should be bringing the play, and they just couldn't make two passes in a row.
Yeah. Clefbaum, Larson, my number is -4. They were -4. And it was
Ooh.
kind of earned. Um, Clefbaum, I don't know. Like I'm not a huge fan of Larson at this point with the Oilers. He had a good game against Vancouver. The last game, but this game again, he's just looking slow and not great with the puck, and not like a modern NHL defenseman who needs to move the puck. And again, Clefbaum had a couple of these brain glitches, especially on the
I know.
third goal. Not on,
Mm-hmm.
like the fourth goal, he overskated the puck, and maybe that was just bad luck. Maybe he just missed it, and that'll happen too to a player. That's just like it's not lack of effort. It might be lack of concentration, but it happens now and then. But Bruce on the third goal against his back check was pathetic.
Yeah, he was in good position and he just glided and the goal scorer skated right by him and you
Yeah,
know.
it's a 2-1 game at that point, and that's your effort level. I mean, it, I've said enough. I don't have to say anything more about that. It was just
And
what
Clefbaum, I mean,
is
he's an exact. I thought he was great in the first period tonight. I thought it was
he
as good as he's
was.
looked. And then what
See,
happened?
so if Tippett's gonna get mad, that's what you get mad about.
Mm-hmm.
That play.
No, and I
Now,
think
Clefbaum had been out there for a while on the ice, right? And so had Draisaitl. So Draisaitl crosses the blue line. They've been out there. They had all kinds of pressure on. They were both tired. Draisaitl should have dumped it in,
tried to
got
dump
off
it
the
in,
ice,
but he couldn't
but
get it past the guy.
he tried to get it. So his play wasn't even as bad as Clefbaum's, but Clefbaum's was just, anyways, it was not good. Okay, are we on to the Hall thing now?
uh, oh, I guess so. I guess we've run through
There's
all
not
of
a lot
our
to say
good
more
things
about that
and
game.
bad things, and a team that's not able to gain much momentum these days, eh?
So I'm going to go through what Elliott Freeman said, and I wrote a
Okay,
post on this, and this is why it's just coming up a lot, this whole thing.
it's endeavor.
Um, Again and again and again. And it seems like there's a faction of fans and commentators in Edmonton who really want Hall to return.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it doesn't die. I'm not, honestly, I'm not on that train, Bruce. I'm okay if they get Hall back as a rental. I just do not see a long-term contract for Taylor Hall at this point for a lot of money being a wise move. He's going to be 29 next year. His game's built on speed. He's had an injury checkered career. Um, Long-term deal. The Oilers are up against the cap. They got all kinds of players to sign: Ethan Bear, Darnell Nurse, Zach Cassian. I just don't see how a long-term deal for Taylor Hall makes honestly any sense at all, and I think it will be a big mistake. There, I said it. So let's go. I'll tell you what Friedman said, and then we'll get your
Mm-hmm.
take.
Sure.
Okay. So Elliott Freeman was on TV tonight. He says he is going to get traded. So
Yeah.
they're looking at it now, and he also said so. Some teams, but he didn't sound Friedman didn't sound bullish on the Oilers as a destination. He says, I think there's a limit on what the Oilers are willing to do. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know if there's a guarantee that Hall is going to extend right now either. I think he's generally he's preferred to wait until the end of the year. I don't know if anybody trading for him now is even going to get the opportunity to try to sign him. I just think Edmonton, they're interested, but there's a limit to what they want to do. I have a feeling that threshold for this deal is going to exceed that. So even as a rental, I
Well,
don't, even as a rental. So, Bruce, I've always thought that if Hall's going to do a trade and then sign, that the Oilers aren't in on that because there's going to be a team that has more cap space and more interest in Hall, and they're going to offer New Jersey more. Hall is kind of, if he makes it clear he's not signing till July 1st, that really screws the Devils because they get a lot less in trade for Taylor Hall at that point. And then I think the Oilers have an outside chance at getting him. We did a poll today. We had like 3,500 responses. And what I was suggesting there is the Oilers trade for Hall as a rental, but they
mm-hmm.
don't give up Berg, they don't give up Evan Bouchard. They give up any other prospect and their first pick this year. Would fans be in favor of that? And most of the fans were not in favor of that. It was
Really.
like 55% to 45%.
Well, pretty close.
Pretty close, but even as a like that's not a super high price for Taylor Hall, I would suggest. It's like probably like Caleb Jones in the first, Kyler Yamamoto in the first, William Lagesson in the first. That's
Tyler Benson.
Tyler Benson in the first. Okay, so what would you say for that? Let's just first that.
For rental, I'm not sure. I'm convinced the Oilers are close enough to be going out and putting two or three major future chips on the line for making a run at it this year. I just don't think they're close enough this year. I don't think it fits Ken Holland's strategy. I just have a hard time imagining Ken Holland doing a trade like that, where he's given up, you know, a good prospect, a first round pick. You get him for a little while. He comes here, the team, maybe they make the playoffs or not, and they get eliminated. And then where the hell are you? He's on the open market, and you've lost your guy. You've lost your assets, and that sends back the build. I don't want to call it a rebuild again, but the build.
Not a rebuild, yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't see that it fits Ken Holland's strategy.
Would you do it?
I don't think I would. No, I don't think I would. I think
See,
I mean, depends partly where that first round pick is, but I mean, if you're talking about doing it tomorrow, I mean, we don't know where that pick's going to be.
well, that's it, Bruce. And
Uh,
that's a very good point. And Holland, when he was asked about it today, he's essentially saying, this is all premature.
yeah,
He's essentially saying, let's wait and see where we are. Like teams can go up
yeah,
and down. Let's wait and see where we are.
yeah,
So that's obviously the same position. This is all premature, but of course we're fans, so we talk about everything in every scenario.
right.
The one way you could do it is you could say, okay, well, if you were to make a trade sooner than later, is well, we'll give you a prospect and a conditional pick. Like if we make the playoffs or make it past the first round, it's your first pick, and if not, it's a second. But I do think Taylor Hall will command a first round draft pick from somebody and some kind of prospect. I don't think his value as a rental is much more than that, honestly. I'd be surprised if it was more than that
Well,
because Mark Stone didn't. Mark Stone got a first pick from Vegas, which wasn't a high first pick,
right.
and they gave up a really good prospect, probably a
Hmm.
prospect as good as Evan Bouchard. I can't remember his name. Eric Brandstrom, I think is his name.
Yes. Yeah.
But he was a
You didn't see him
trade and
tonight.
sign. He was a trade and sign.
Yeah.
So if New Jersey doesn't have that, if Taylor Hall's making it clear that he's not going to sign, that lowers that value to kind of like a first pick, and then it'll maybe like a William Lagesson kind of prospect, or maybe a Kyler Yamamoto kind of prospect.
Yeah, well, I mean, the kind of conditional trades that do get made around players like Hall is if the team signs him, then they have to up the
Yes,
ante. So there could be that sort of trade because, of course, what Hall's camp says now and what they actually wind up doing could be two different things.
that's true too, right?
But then you wind up paying almost triple indemnity. You pay to get the guy's rights, and you chip in. You pay him full market value to keep him around, and then you have to throw in yet another asset to keep him. And
So let's go the long-term scenario, Bruce. Would you sign
yeah,
Taylor Hall to like a 6, 7 year contract for major dollars if it was your call?
at age 29,
Yes,
uh,
at age 29.
I don't think I would. I just I think I mean like most 29-year-olds, his best years are probably already behind him. He's going to be a good player for a long time. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to get paid like a good player, and that's going to take a big chunk out of the team's salary cap that's already paying 21 million to two high-scoring forwards, and they need help. I think they need to shore up their roster in other places. You wind up throwing another 11 million or something at a guy, and then you got a Toronto scenario where you're paying the hell out of three guys, and then you're building some portion of your roster on duct tape and baling wire, as the old saying goes. And
Yeah.
I mean, he had his time here, and he's moved on. I mean, this fascination. I understand the interest in the guy, but I don't think that he's necessarily the answer. I mean, Low Tide asked me a similar question this morning on his radio show, and I made the point that Hall is, he's still an offense first and last kind of player. Like I watched him play a couple times recently, and I saw the same kind of defensive clangers that we saw, and lots of skating and creating chances and stuff. But he also looked dispirited and discouraged, and he's played 10 years in this league now, and he's played on crappy teams almost every one of those years. And I mean, maybe it's just a matter of getting in the right situation that he gets sparked up again. But I don't know. I mean, we've seen what happens when you pay a 28, 29, 30-year-old guy for 6 years. And I mean, Oilers paid Sekera. They wound up buying him out. They paid Lucic. I mean, they wound up getting out from under the deal, but they're still paying the price. And there's very few that you can point at and say that guy delivered on the full length of a over 30 contract.
Okay, here's my scenario for signing the player because I'm completely against a long-term contract for him. But we will recall that when he was in Detroit, Ken Holland signed Hossa for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So Hossa had just won a Stanley Cup in
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
and he signed a 1 year. I think it was for $7 million, and the Oilers had offered him $9 million on a long-term deal that same year. It was 2008.
So,
And Cates was trying to make a big splash and forgot to sign Curtis Glencross.
Cross.
Anyway, so that is the scenario. If Taylor Hall wants to come to Edmonton on that
Yeah,
kind of 1 year deal,
not going to happen.
well, I got my fingers crossed. Like that's like if he was to come like 1 year, 8 million,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, all right, that's great. Do that. Or like I could see 2 years, like a 2 year, but I just don't see down the road because you're going to have all of these players. We're hoping that Evan Bouchard pans out and Benson and Bear, and there really is Zach Cassian to sign and Darnell Nurse to sign, and Ryan Nugent Hopkins to sign. Like there are all these
And
players.
some would tell you that those guys aren't the difference maker that Taylor Hall is. And if the Oilers had one more difference maker on another line, they'd be almost unstoppable. And I mean, it is an intriguing
It is
case.
intriguing. Yeah,
But
I don't discount it,
yeah. Anyway,
but I don't
it's
embrace it.
funny you mentioned Marian Hossa because that was the example I used talking to Low Tide this morning, where Chicago was the team that went out and they got a third high-end forward in support of Taves and Kane. But Hossa was, like a Selke caliber, 200-foot player that sort of fit in anywhere on any line on the penalty kill, and he was just an all ice, all situations player. And I don't see Hall as that player, and I'm not sure that I see either of the other big boys, at least yet. I think Draisaitl has that potential down the road, but all of them, the thing about playing defensive hockey is playing with focus for 60 minutes times 82, and sometimes that seems to waver a little bit. And yeah, yeah, I don't see it without creating great big holes elsewhere in the roster.
And you don't see him signing here 1 year? You think that's kind
Uh,
of a
if
fantasy?
if I was Hall, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if you with his health issue, that's a huge gamble on his part. If he signs for 1 year and something goes wrong.
Have we seen that recently? Did someone do that recently? Just trying to think. Was there a case where someone did it? I can't think of it right now.
1 year deal, show me deal. Well, Chris Russell, but I mean that.
Yeah, that was different. That was different.
Oh,
That's not
number
the same
four
thing.
on the Oilers, man. I mean, how close do you want to get? But yeah, it was. I think you see it sometimes in basketball. There's been an example or two like
Yeah, but
that.
they
But
make so much in one. Like they
they're
make like $35
yeah.
million now in 1 year. It's a
hmm
little different. So
Yeah, but it would be a huge risk for a player, if someone is out there. I mean, Marian Hossa in 2008, when he did sign with Detroit, took a massive risk because if he had a bad injury that year, you know, that 63 million that the Oilers apparently offered him, almost all of it would have been left on the table because he would have only taken, a tiny fraction of what he could have got. But what he wound up getting was a good year in Detroit, where he went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and then because he stayed healthy, he got a great um, long-term contract right after that worked out very well for him and the Hawks.
so your prediction is he's not coming to Edmonton. That's your prediction?
Yeah, I don't think so. I just don't see it fitting the Ken Holland model. And I mean, my decision, it's not a decision. I'm just an observer here. I'm just telling you what I think. But I mean, the decision maker, it's not really his style. Like when he
I
was with Detroit,
yeah.
how many guys did he go out and pay huge bucks for to pick up? And maybe right when they were at their peak and challenging for the cup. But I mean, the Oilers are a team that's just basically challenging to make the playoffs.
And the other thing about it is this, Bruce, like the Detroit had an interesting cap situation because they had some guys signed for a lot of money, but not too much, and they didn't ever want to pay
For
anyone more
25
than
for
Lidstrom.
25 years
Yeah, they
under
didn't
the
want to.
old cap tails, yeah.
They didn't want to pay those players more. I think the Oilers are in kind of an interesting, similar cap situation. Like McDavid is the highest paid player, but he took a discount to sign here in Edmonton. That's well known. Draisaitl got a lot of money, but not in today's money. But and if they want to keep Nurse's contract, RNH's contract, Bear's contract, Cassian's contract, like this under control, you can't lavish a lot of money on Taylor Hall. I think that would just blow like it happened in Toronto. They signed Tavares and it blew their cap situation. Their cap expectations were blown apart. And
Yeah, in Toronto, it was particularly uh, double whammy because they signed Tavares before they re-signed all of their young rookies. So all those guys came in with, $11 million uh, stars in their eyes and basically got it.
yeah, so my prediction is that there's going to be another team out there who will want Taylor Hall more than the Oilers and be in a different cap situation and in different need of that kind of scoring and attacking player than the Oilers, and they will end up with Taylor Hall, not the Edmonton Oilers. That's my prediction. It's been.
Colorado is an interesting potential landing spot for him.
I don't see
They
it.
got they got cap space and they would.
Maybe like I'm thinking more like, and I haven't looked at these teams, but like Dallas, St. Louis, some team like that, kind of an established Anaheim. I just that's what I'm thinking, like that kind of team in the States. Not maybe Colorado. Who
Well, they
knows?
need to have cap space, and Colorado's got it, and they've also got assets galore because of the great, fantastic steal they made on the Matt Duchene trade years ago when they got 7 assets for Matt Duchene shortly after Peter Chiarelli got 1 asset for Taylor Hall.
Well, here's hoping that Colorado signs Taylor Hall to a 7 year, $10 million a year contract, Bruce. That's what I'd like to see. Because I don't think that in the long run works. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe we're all wrong. I mean, it's like casting horoscopes, isn't it? Trying to
Yeah, who
predict what.
knows?
So,
We don't know. Alrighty. Let's
guessing hard, but my guess is Ken Holland will say, "I want to build from within and build a core team and blowing the cap out of the water. I mean, his cap is already blown out of the water with the big
yeah.
contracts that he inherited."
So Bruce, I was with some of my when I was in Kananaskis, I was with my high school friends, and
Hmm. Oh,
one of them was talking about their dad, who every night before he will wake up sometimes in the middle of the night. He's got a little bit of insomnia and listen to the Cult of Hockey podcast.
oh yeah, cool.
So I want to give a shout out to Hugh Bolton tonight,
Hello, Hugh.
Cult of Hockey fan, great
That's great.
and a great Edmontonian. He was the longtime chairman of EPCOR when they did a lot of good things, and EPCOR is a huge provider for the city of Edmonton, about $150 million a year in taxes or a dividend that goes to the city of Edmonton. So anyway, Hugh, if you're listening tonight, hope you enjoy the podcast, and hopefully the Oilers will be having more luck in the games to come. They play, is it Friday in Los Angeles?
Friday, Sunday here against Los Angeles.
Oh, here. Okay.
Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. It's a 4-game homestand, and this was the one that was supposed to get things off on the right foot. So they've actually now lost 3 in a row at home. Anyway, I let's pass on good word thanks to the many people who have said kind things to us on Twitter of late. I've received a number of very kind words in Twitter about this podcast and how many people listen to it. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, I just think there are lots of Oiler fans just like us, just people who love the Oilers like we do.
I bet they're frustrated tonight too. Oh,
that was painful.
I'm just ready to explode here.
I like I said. Anyway, we've
I
been
know. I
through
thought
this.
I was getting more sanguine, as you put it earlier this year, but this game tonight, man, I was nervous in the first period. I think I don't like this. I've seen Anderson. I'll tell you one thing. Here's my actual real good thing about tonight's game: is apparently nobody got hurt, and there was seemed like every other time you turned around, some Oiler was limping off to the bench. McDavid got winged. Clefbaum got winged. Draisaitl took 2 or 3 horrible spills. He got his helmet knocked off one time. He went down awkwardly in a corner. Another time he hit his head on a guy. And Kara looked like he twisted his ankle, and he came off painfully. And anyway, all those guys finished the game, and hopefully that's a good sign that they're not actually hurt, because this was a game where it was disaster was waiting to happen.
Yeah, I wonder if nobody
kind of
got.
did, but if we just take the 0 points and move on with our team intact, well, maybe that's a good thing.
I wonder if nobody got hurt. Like you get these knocks and you keep playing, but
Yeah,
they start to add up.
out.
Thanks,
We'll
Bruce.
find out. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.